It is. We have somebody who's zooming in, who's the vice chair. The chairman will be here at 6:30.
Oh, sure.
And we won't start the public hearing until 6:30 until the chair arrives.
Sure.
But we do have a quorum sufficient to take some business, for example, the approval of the minutes of a meeting and so forth. So Dylan, I turn the meeting to you.
Yeah, great, excellent. Okay, so we'll just take care of some of the quick perfunctory things here. Clerk Marshall, have you gotten a chance to go over the meeting agenda, the minutes rather, from January 18th?
I have, and I would move approval.
Excellent, and then I will second that motion to approve the meeting minutes. So since we have a motion and a second, any further discussion? I have no comments. And hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the January 18th, 2022 meeting minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Let's see, so that out of the way, we will take just a quick look at the annual local election warrant for Monday, April 4th, 2022. Just make sure that all looks in order. I'm looking for it in my packet now.
It was a long,
I'm sorry.
it was a long document, so I wasn't able to scan it in. But it just has all of the different positions that are up for election this year. And it's presented by the town clerk.
Yeah, and presumably Ellen has gone over it with a fine-tooth comb and crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's for the local warrant. I believe it. I think I might have seen it in the electronic packet. It all looked good to me, or else I saw it on the town website. So I feel like that is in order. Dr. Marshall, have you gotten eyes on it at all?
I have eyes on it as we speak and had eyes on it previous in the, as you said, on our virtual information about the meeting tonight. So I would move approval of the warrant as presented by the town clerk.
Excellent. I will second that motion. And we've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Let's see.
I think that most of
Maybe we could take a look at this. And do we need to notify someone, the constables, to post this now that we've approved it, Jessica?
The town clerk. The town clerk notified.
Town clerk?
Yep.
Okay, great.
we have some perfunctory issues with the use of town property, Christmas in Barre Craft Fair, the Circle of Song Spring Concert, QDRUG Purple Prevention Week, where they're looking to do the particular decorations that they do. So we do have documents from those groups requesting specific dates. Those dates are not in conflict, and they are great dates and events that we do sort of support each year. So I would recommend approval of the use of town property as requested for the group from Christmas in Barre Craft Fair, the Circle of Song Spring Concert, and QDRUG Purple Prevention Week, which is in March, I think the 7th through the 11th, where you will see the purple ribbons tied around the common, and so on and so forth.
Okay, and since you recommended that as a motion, I will say so moved.
And if we're calling for the vote?
I guess is your second then implied?
It is indeed, yes.
Maybe my, okay, good. Just making sure my Robert's rules aren't, I don't have an encyclopedia knowledge of those Robert's rules. So let's see, so we've got a motion and a second to approve these three events. So if there's no further discussion, I will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. And then I saw that there is a motor vehicle license renewal.
Spring Hill Auto Salvage. I would move approval of the motor vehicle license renewal at Spring Hill Auto Salvage that we have approved in the past.
Excellent. I will second that motion. And now that we have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
I would recommend probably that we wait until the chair arrives to move into our public hearing, which is, I think we have a number of people here for that particular hearing. So I don't.
Okay, am I hearing a move to recess for 5 minutes
Yeah.
or 10 minutes until the chair arrives?
I would agree with, that would be in the best interest of the meeting. I move that we recess for 5 minutes until the chair arrives.
Okay, I'll second that. Call for a vote. All those in favor to move to recess? I don't know if this needs to be a roll call vote, but Clark, yes.
Marshall, yes.
Excellent. We will resume at approximately 6:30.
30.
If we would have known, we would have brought refreshments.
I wish you would have, Sam.
Yeah, but I didn't know that this was gonna happen. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind. That would be lovely. That might be a change in concept.
Where those people, she's looking.
Oh, yeah.
It's supposed to be in the auditorium. I have no idea. Yeah, so I think that's the way it's just really. It's okay. It's certainly, yeah. Well, we had the town meeting there tonight. So, it should be fun. I hope the weather's all right.
Highlight that one.
Correct. This is just the special town meeting, right? It's that.
Okay.
Or, you know,
Yeah.
there's sort of lessons, I think, that's attached to it. And you have to get it done, so you have time before that.
Okay.
So I think that's. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Oh, we're having negotiations with the fire department union on February 16th.
I think I saw that.
Okay.
I believe it's going to be on it.
at 1 p.m.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
We can do
I think
it.
that's
Okay.
okay.
Will they give us a proposal before that meeting, so we can be reviewing it, or is it just one of these things where we trade proposals, or how do they do it?
I'm gonna ask our attorney, and then I'm gonna ask them, well, I'm gonna ask our attorney first how we should proceed, since this is a new contract, so it's not like we have something to go off of. So I'm gonna see if she wants them to make the first move, or if she wants us to.
Well, it'd be way easier if they came to the table with a proposal.
I'm hoping, because that's what they've been working on
Yeah.
this whole time.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we do I have the, well, not, our side has a proposal, their side has a proposal, and we trade proposals and then return. So we can review that, so if they do, then they'll work with the current, document.
Well, they don't have a current document. This is their first contract with us.
Oh, yeah, how come?
Yeah, because I do think that.
Okay, I know.
Yes, you want?
Yeah.
Okay, for that, for that.
So that's kind of the basics of it.
It's life out on the street. It is 84-year-old mother. A lot of wildlife.
So she was a lot of people.
Yeah.
Does she feel like that?
Yeah, I can see the guy, yeah. Willing to give him an extension for a deadline to be that's what we should do.
No, I know, no, it's right there. Yeah.
Not a big deal.
No, it's funny when I came up with the
Not a big deal.
There it is.
In my head, it was thinking like a roundabout square.
Do they have something that we suggest we move acceptance
It will be on.
of
It's like wrong turn of the
their
way.
proposal? Because it really,
No, it's so
not to exceed 10,000.
Yeah, we talked about it.
I saw rain in the bathroom, like, how it's snowing.
Yeah.
We can just, we can accept their proposal, and then, I mean, because I really don't think we'll
Oh, yeah, but if you say not to exceed 10,000.
Okay, yeah, I can say no.
I mean, because 5,000 comes so quickly if we ended up in a jam. If we don't end up in a jam, we can shave.
All right, okay.
I don't think so.
I'm in.
Yeah, you are.
I've done that.
Really? It's a very long road.
It's a nice lot.
Tony Bear is a well management municipality. Okay, thank you.
I just want to get us feel.
I think the town has seen it here.
Yeah.
I think the town has seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, they've taken care of a couple of things.
Yeah,
Sometimes they just max out.
right.
Feel like-
That's massive. I wish we would do that with these people.
I'm not ready to repeat that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
How's your house?
I can't believe that guy's here now. What are we going to do with this?
No, we have a ton now right now.
Do you?
It's cold, yeah.
It happens.
Yep.
I don't know, we have like.
I mean, we're gonna wait
Who
put
cares?
him
Yeah,
here.
it's gonna snow again this week.
I know, but hopefully that would be overkill to
I
be
thought you were
done.
selling some things out in your
Well,
I couldn't quite see what it was.
Oh, do you have a plan on purchases already, or are we just saying?
That's what we're gonna discuss, because I'm Greg, and our dog's to fund the rebel plan. He wants to cancel special meeting and fund rebel.
Oh, okay.
Because he was adamant that we don't pay anything on it.
I have nothing else to do. I have nothing else to do.
$50,000 is the only.
There's something.
They used to fund the budget. That's how so many people manage municipal finance.
And this is what I'm making
We
today.
don't want to worry about it.
When I come out with direct
Very
complaints, I
against
drop this, okay, you're not.
That is,
And then he also, because he can't purchase that, whatever Trump has system, which is that out of the, he wants to purchase this at ARPA.
department.
So I think,
Is it for
one thing is
examination?
like,
Right.
wouldn't write the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
letter.
What's it say for playing with me?
Oh, yeah.
What's the
I
stabilization?
mentioned Congress.
And it's a time where he's been diligent about it.
But I did tell
Right
him.
now,
And then
quick.
you were time.
Hey,
Look forward to that.
yeah, peaches are awesome.
It is nice out there.
Is it icy?
Not icy, but it's just
Yeah, well, foggy though.
very cold and still raining like crazy.
We took care of minutes,
All right,
and we took care of motor vehicle license renewal for Spring Hill, and we took care of Christmas in Barre.
all right.
Okay, the rest, we're ready.
So your
we're ready to go.
executive went quickly, I take it.
Oh, yeah. One thing the attorney wanted us to look at in the contract. Just under new business, we're ready to do a public hearing. I think most of the folks are here public, ready to transfer, their licenses because they sold it.
Okay. Nice, so, but okay.
Yeah, so I would suspect that's who most of the people are here. And then as far as the seesaw, I don't know if anybody received for that, there should be somebody who comes.
Yeah, we'll see.
And we
We'll get into
voted,
that.
of course, to do Project Purple.
Except he's 3.5
Put the,
hours.
Oh, the ribbons?
Yeah,
Excellent.
Dylan is here, he's on it.
And these requests are done, or no? Well, I'll just find it as we need it, so I won't hold it up any longer. We were already, we're still in session.
You know, the,
Licenses.
no, this is the town of Barre, the election warrant, who's running, what positions are being on the
Oh,
warrant.
excellent. Excellent. So who's, Dylan still running?
Dylan is,
He just recessed the meeting while we were waiting.
Oh, okay. How long you been recessed? Not too long, I hope.
oh, no, probably, 5 minutes.
Oh, you guys are really fast. All right, so we're going to continue on then with the Harding Allen first, and then we need to get to the sewer if they're here, and then master plan will be next thing to get into. And what else after that? Skip all the way down to
Then we
what?
go to mask policy,
Mask
then we
policy.
go to ARPA and stuff, and then we're into
Okay,
reports.
so everything down there is ready to go. There's nothing we've met. Okay. All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. We are at 6:34, and we're going to start with the,
Chairman?
not now, Mr. Lipson.
No, will you please?
Not now, Mr. Lipson.
Will you please put on a mask?
I will not be wearing a mask this
There's a
evening.
rule that,
Mr. Lipson,
There's a
please
rule.
be quiet and don't disrupt the
there's a
meeting.
rule on the door.
Mr.
that says
Lipson,
everybody
please be
who comes
quiet
in this
and do not
room
disrupt the
For a
meeting.
meeting, you must have a mask.
Please just let the man speak, okay?
Can you put a mask on? That's pretty simple.
Would you,
I'm not wearing a mask, no.
you're not wearing a mask?
I'm not wearing a mask.
Okay. Can you please put your mask up? Let him speak. We'll keep the peace. Let's just get this meeting through. Okay?
So the agenda item we're up for.
I think there's
with-
something important about wearing a mask. There's a mandate that the town administrator put forth,
I
and
understand.
there's a rule on the door.
Mr. Lipson,
And that says.
I'm asking you to be quiet for the last time. Officer, please don't silence me at the meeting.
We're asking him to give respect
Mr. Lipson,
to others.
you will be quiet at the meeting or you will be asked to leave, once
Well,
again.
I think
You're out of
maybe-
order here.
I think that maybe you should
Mr.
put a mask
Lipson.
on, or else you should be asked to
Please leave my meeting, Mr. Lipson.
I'm not gonna do that because I came to listen, but I think you should. put
Then
a
this is
mask
your
on.
last chance. Be quiet and listen, or I will have you removed.
I'd like very much to bring a mask from my car so you can wear a mask.
Mr. Lipson,
Well, what are we gonna do about this?
please let him speak so we can have the meeting.
But he's endangering my health by him not wearing a mask.
You are wearing a mask.
Yeah, but he's not wearing one.
He's the only one wearing a mask. He's speaking at this meeting. He's trying to get this meeting underway.
Yeah, but other
I
people will
need
speak
you-
at the meeting.
Mr. Lipson, I need you to either let this meeting go peacefully, or you will be asked to leave.
Well, I'd like to file a report that he's not wearing a mask. He's been asked to by you, and he said to you that he wasn't wearing one.
Okay, so.
And I think that's a little ridiculous. He shouldn't be allowed to be at the meeting without a mask.
Mr. Lipson,
I will provide him a mask if you'd like. I'll go into my car.
No,
Unless you want to arrest me.
Officer,
for
would
asking
you,
him not to wear a mask.
please remove him from my meeting?
Mr. Lipson, please stand up. Come on. Mr. Lipson, please stand up. 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 Mr. Lipson, please stand up
arresting you?
I'm not arresting you. You were asked to leave peacefully. We don't have to go through that.
Well, what
Now,
if I don't say
Mr.
anything?
Whipson,
What if I promise not to say anything?
if you promise not to say anything, then we can continue with this meeting, but this is the last time I'm gonna go over this,
That sounds good to me.
okay? You good with that?
I'm good with that. So, next agenda item will be the Harding Allen Estate Common Victualler Inn Holder Transfer. So whoever is here for that would like to come take a seat or come to the front row, either way. Now let me try to find all the documents.
No, you can sit up with me, Susan. Yeah.
It's a big chunk of change here, big packet.
And I just got one page off the top, so.
I mean, you can sit there as well if you want. You're the manager, so.
So, go ahead and let us know what's going on.
Sure. This is a
You need
petition
this.
for the transfer of an alcohol license at the Harding Allen Estate. It's currently a hotel license that's held there. So I filed a fairly lengthy packet with the town probably about a month ago. This has pretty much all of the relevant information in terms of both the business transaction that's taking place, the underlying financing for that business transaction. Just to be clear, the petition itself is a petition for a transfer of a license. It's also for the change of a manager. Jasmine Hornick, who's sitting to my left, will be the manager of the license going forward, obviously if it's approved by yourselves in the state. And then there's also the bank, in terms of financing this particular deal, has requested a pledge of the underlying stock for the ultimate operating entity. The current license holder is Red Barre LLC. This is found on the first page of the packet. The proposed transferee is my client's entity, which is Barre Lilac Bliss. And this is about on the sixth page of the packet, or sorry, Lilac Barre Bliss LLC. That will be the operating entity for the wedding venue. The license will extend to both the main function house, which I think the address is that 57 Allen or 58 Grove?
59.
Yeah.
59 Allen. And then there's also a bed and breakfast that's run behind that, and the license would apply to that property as well.
Okay.
You're continuing, going to keep the same kind of venue?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would assume any questions we ask are pretty much going to be out of our curiosity.
Sure.
To
Yeah,
us,
fire away.
To me anyways.
Okay.
We've done this with other businesses before. It's relatively standard. You all go through, I know, quite a bit of documentation, most of which probably is unnecessary for us, but we do appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, are we missing anything? You know of Jessica's is straightforward. We have nothing to do with the ownership of the building and transfer, so.
Correct.
We're just transferring the name on the documents for the business license and for the liquor license.
Correct.
Is this what you're asking for?
Yes.
I would move approval.
I would second the motion to approve.
Thank you. So we have a motion, a second, to approve both the business name transfer and the liquor license transfer. Do we have any further discussion from anyone in the room before we continue with this?
Comments, concerns, anything?
None at all? Then we'll continue with the vote for that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
We do so with giving you much luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're very excited.
Hoping that COVID is away and you can run whatever venues you would like
Yeah.
there and people can get married or do whatever else
Yeah.
they do when they have these big events. So good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
For coming in.
Yep.
We
I
look
appreciate
forward
all
to
the
being
packet.
here.
I'm sorry. it's
No,
not-
hey,
but we-
absolutely.
There's really very little we need to do for that, except when people have questions.
I'm
Yeah.
just very happy to have people willing to take on such a huge, not only responsibility, but it's such a difficult time to do this, and I give you great credit for your, I guess, not only your diligence in doing all of this, but your courage in going
Thank
forward.
you.
So,
Well, we have big, yeah, we have some big boots to fill, so we
okay.
look forward to being here, Barry.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for your
Nice-
help.
Nice meeting you.
Thank
Okay.
Thank you.
Part of the master.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
She's got
Okay, so the next thing on our agenda is going to be the USDA loan for the sewer department discussion. Is there anybody here on behalf of the sewer department to go through this and explain it to us?
I know that they've been invited several times.
They have been. So while we have the topic out, the DPW commission, it consists of the water commission, the sewer commission, and the select board members. And at no time at those meetings have we heard anything about a loan discussion or anything going on, what it's for. And what they've asked us to put on the warrant, and we've placed it on to this point, is a request for an $8 million loan, which I would rather see some more discussion, public involvement before that. In my personal opinion, this type of request belongs in the annual town meeting docket, not in a special town. Special town, in my opinion, which means a lot to me anyways, is to tidy up budget items and concerns, things we've missed, shortcomings, transfers, something we have to do, some required thing to keep our government functioning, and this is not fitting the bill for that. So at this point, I would make a motion that I can't yet. We're going to have to open the warrant to do that. So we'll address that in a minute, but we'll move off unless somebody has anything to add or say or comment on this.
Yeah, I'm curious if you had any feedback on this meeting, because I thought they were going to be at the meeting tonight.
Well, we requested their attendance.
No feedback whatsoever?
Nothing.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well,
And once again, when a citizen wants to put something on the warrant, at the annual town meeting, it's 10 signatures. It's very trivial because that's a time to bring up business for the public and everyone has something on there and everybody is aware of that. A special town meeting is usually for little budgetary concerns. When somebody wants to put a special item on, it requires a much larger number of signatures, and 100 or so in that ballpark. And the reason is that they want to make it difficult, and that's not our rules, it's the state's, to put things in a special town meeting, because our business is supposed to be done annually at the town meeting. In special towns, it's just to clean things up. So I really think it's not the appropriate time and place to put that on the meeting warrant, so we may adjust that before this meeting is done tonight.
I do believe there's an opening on the sewer department as well, and no one has taken out any papers. Just saying.
Just to let you know that Matt LaPointe is going to be taking out papers.
Excellent.
So you're on that, Kathy, thank you.
All right, next discussion will be the master plan contract with CMRPC. We did hear back from the planning board, and they are in favor of the proposal submitted by CMRPC. For those of you that aren't aware of what's going on, is we do have a grant that Jessica got for the town here, and CMRPC will be able to a large portion of master plan design and build. We'll be assembling, we haven't assembled the committee yet, we're going to assemble a committee for that. But before we proceeded, we wanted to run this by the planning board, who is really the entity in charge of the master plan for town. And they like what they see in the format, and they're in favor of us going through with this contract with them, so that's what we're up here to do tonight. Any discussion before we do that?
No, we've discussed this on numerous occasions, and
Yes.
certainly the planning board as well. I would move approval of the Barre.
Yeah, I would second approval, please.
Okay, we have motion to second to approve our contract for CMRPC for the master plan as they presented to us, which we did in great detail at a previous meeting, but if there are any more questions or concerns, we'd entertain those now before we move to a vote. Having and seeing none, I'll call for vote, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that will be approved. Now we'll discuss the mask policy briefly, and this is what I wanted to put on here. As you see on the front door, there is a mandate, if you can call it that, from the Board of Health that everybody that enters this building should wear a mask. And I have challenged Jessica, and I've challenged anyone to bring forward and show me any place that the Board of Health has any control to place any mandates on the citizenry or people who use this building. And the fact is, they don't. They can strongly recommend and strongly urge, and I believe this board has the authority, if they wish, to place such a mandate on this building. Furthermore,
So if you're voting tonight, you're going to put on a mask next meeting?
not unless the government says I have to at public meetings, and that's the last aspect of this. I believe, as As long as these mandates have existed during this pandemic, they've always exempted the people at the meetings, running the meetings and on the boards from wearing masks during the meetings. And I don't see any change in that, and I don't see any change in the behavior of anyone else federally or state on that type of behavior in these boards, and
You know, it seems to be
Mr. Lipson,
It seems to be a common.
officer, please remove him, I'm done with him, please take him out of
It
this
should be
meeting.
a common courtesy.
Sam, come on, we gotta go.
It should be a common courtesy if somebody asks you to take a shower,
Sam,
you take
come
a
on.
shower
This
because
way.
you stink.
Don't forget his code officer.
Go, Sam.
Well, wearing a mask is ridiculous to throw me out for. But you made a decision. I don't see anybody else here supporting me unless,
Sam, I
can
told
you
you.
support me? Can you guys support me and say, if the rule says wear a mask? I mean, I'm just asking, well, until you put in a cruiser.
You're not getting locked up, Sam.
Will people support me that I'm right? Can I hear from people?
Let's go.
Well, will you say something? Say something to the selectmen. I want to stand right here and wait to see who says something.
Sam, you can't do that. Come on, let's go.
I want to listen.
Will you?
We're gonna wait till he's gone from the building.
I think he's gone.
No, he's still in the hole, he's gonna leave.
You and I have had conversations about the mask policy, and I disagree with you, and
Mhm.
you know, I agree that when you're actually speaking, taking off the mask is appropriate. I would indicate that the Board of Health does, under statute, have the authority to ask us to, or to require us to wear masks at public events that the town of Barre let's face it, this is our event. And they do have, from everything I've read in statute, you're wrong.
Events are one thing, public events and things,
Well, this is a public event.
our public meetings and government meetings are specifically and explicitly covered by this from the state, and we are exempt during these meetings. And this is why I said we can check with KP Law, we've verified, we've had 2 weeks to do so. If we have anything different from KP Law for an update, I'd certainly respect the lawyer's interpretation if it's different than what I see for it. But to that end, I think if the board believes it's prudent that people should be wearing a mask in the building, we could still make that mandate for the building. But I would caution you to one end. You don't want to have the appearance of any committee or board overstepping their powers and authorities, and you know, I don't want to get into the whole political thing of this whole shutdown we did in the state, what it did to businesses and how it harmed businesses, a lot of things in people's jobs in the state. But I think you got to be careful not to overstep what the authority is that we're granted or that the Board of Health is granted in town. And, you know, saying that they should be able to mandate something, what law gives them the right and how do they enforce it? And if something's not enforceable, then how can it be mandated?
Well, I think it is enforceable, Greg.
By what measure?
By what measure? What you just did to Mr. Lipson, I would say, if I refuse to wear a mask when it is a mandate by the Board of Health, which is authorized by statutes of the Commonwealth to take care of such matters, then you should have the opportunity to say to me, Maureen, we'd really put on a mask. And I say, no, I'm not going to do that. You say, well, sorry, could you just go home and Zoom? You can participate in the meeting. We're not saying you shouldn't participate, but we're concerned, blah, blah, blah. I think that 900,000 people are dead. I know you're going to say that it's not really from COVID, it was from something else, and that's okay. My concern just is, how do we have our children masked at the school, and every teacher masked at the school, and doing this and doing that, and all the things that they're supposed to do? And the Board of Health asks very little of us. They say, just at a public meeting, would you wear a mask? I just feel the lack of our concern for the people in our community who say to us, we're sick when we come to the meeting sometimes, Maureen, don't breathe on us. I get that. I'm okay with that. I just say that all the other public stuff that we're doing in our community, you're seeing people with masks. And I bring the schools to mind because that is the biggest operation. That's your biggest employer. That's the biggest thing that's happening every day. And our children are masked, our teachers are masked, our people coming and going are masked. You can't come into school without being masked. And it seems to have worked marvelous because our kids aren't getting sick. And if they are getting sick, they're getting sick from home and bringing it to school, which we have all kinds of testing to document. So I look at, and I know Mr. Anders, he's shared some, medical issues that he has, and I would feel absolutely, it would be unconscionable to me to sit here with Mr. Anders in the room, needing my help and support for things, and not do what the Board of Health has asked.
Well, the Board of Health, as far as I know.
I would agree with you, Dr. Marshall. I would concur with what you just laid out. And furthermore, our goal is to be as accessible to the public as possible. And if the outburst or the difference of opinion that we just witnessed 5 minutes ago, it's not without merit that if people from the public want to come and participate in a meeting, it should be as accessible to them as possible. And not being able to participate in an in-person meeting because of an inconsistent mask, not an inconsistent mask policy, but an inconsistent mask just reality, is just doesn't square with having a public meeting truly open to the public, for it being safe and accessible to as many people as possible. So either if there's an impasse wherein part of our board, constitutionally, I guess you might say, is in disagreement with the existence of or the use of masks in response to what the Board of Health and what every other health agency probably on planet Earth has deemed to be a credible threat to public health and safety, then we should I would say then we either need to encourage the public to be Zooming and do as much remote meeting as possible, at least until such a time where we can have, warmer temperatures or weather-dependent, some outdoor meetings or something like for special town meeting, annual town meeting, like we've done in the past. But it's harder to conduct business in person. If some people are wearing masks and other people aren't, that's just how masks work. So I would encourage our chairman to rethink some of his stances on wearing masks, at least insofar as a couple hours every first and third Monday of the month. Certainly, if that can encourage people, guests, and vendors, and council, and citizens to participate in our meetings all the more and safely, I think that's something that you should think seriously about, because I don't think that Mr. Lipson is entirely in the wrong when he reads in plain English and everyone else reads in plain English going through the door, masks are required. There's not that many ways you can interpret that statement. And then to see, the three of us being, heads of town government, inconsistently following what seems like the town of Barre's recommendation or requirement, just doesn't speak highly of our board as being a legitimate governing body. And I think we just need to be more consistent, and it's not for fun, right? Nobody really likes masks. Nobody really likes Zoom for the most part. I'd say those are probably pretty widely held beliefs. But it's not about what we like to do all the time. It's about doing the right thing, and I think that we as a board can do better and lead by example, and hopefully soon enough we won't have to be thinking about these things ever again.
Have either of you seen any reports about masks that are saying the only mask that actually will be effective is properly fitted N95 masks?
That's why the state of Massachusetts has made those specific masks available to all of our teachers.
In other words, in this room, I see no N95 masks. We have no effective masks in this room.
It doesn't matter if you go on any medical site, they will tell you that a cloth mask certainly isn't as good as it's, maybe from here to here, my stuff isn't, my droplets aren't going anywhere. But if I came in here with an N95, 86% of any of the droplets are prohibited from traveling in this room. I'm happy to even go more stringent and say that the select board will wear only N95 masks. I will get one and I will have it on next week. Greg, I couldn't agree more with Dylan. I think I hate to have a squabble over this, but I just think your carte blanche attitude, which is like, I don't care what the Board of Health says because they don't have, yes, they do. They have a responsibility to say this to the community. And we have a responsibility to lead in a way that we say, the Board of Health has, in concert with all the medical professionals around, pretty much say that this is an important thing to do to protect our own health, but to protect the health of others. Omicron is moving in the right direction. I think it's going to be short time before we're getting a different mask mandate from the Board of Health. But currently, and when they made this, the surge was on, and I think they made a good decision. They made it to benefit not only people in our schools, but the people are using our public buildings, and the people who work in this building. At least people who come in off the street to pay their taxes or do what are masked, so that the people who are working here feel it's that level of protection. I think you're in the minority on this.
Well, that may be, that certainly may be, but what I'm also speaking to is, and we're not picking up here, is people overstepping. Did the CDC put a mask mandate in for this country, or did the president try to instill a mask mandate? Does the Board of Health for the state do the mask mandate, or did the governor put in the mask mandate? It's not the Board of Health that do this. The Board of Health recommend, in the government leadership is the one that should put forward a policy or a mandate if that's what they're doing. Mandates, frankly, as I said, they're unenforceable. They're not legal. Some communities do try to enforce it. They do try to put civil penalties, and I don't know how it will go if they do that. But they are not crimes in the state books. They have not been passed as crimes.
So basically you're saying it's not a crime, Maureen, so get off my back.
No, what I'm saying is we have a mandate that's not enforceable with any measure. And it's tough to say it's a mandate. I think it's just wiser to put the straight truth out there that they strongly suggest it. And they could come to this board and say, hey, we'd like you all to support a mask policy within this building, and come to us and ask us to put that posting on the building. I think them placing that posting on the building is overstepping their authority.
So do you think the selectmen have the authority to put a mask mandate in?
A policy of wearing masks in the building, yes. To mandate someone to do it, I don't.
So
I don't think we have the right. I don't think we can mandate a population to wear a certain thing on their persons. I just don't see.
Well, I feel badly for all the children in schools and all the teachers in schools and all
As
the
do
medical
I.
people who are down at the clinic. And when I go into the clinic or when I go into a hospital or whatever, I am masked because I have to be masked. And I guess, whether the head of the hospital or the head of the clinic or the head of the doctor's office, they seem to feel that they have, sometimes you're sitting in your car, you can call, and then the dentist says, you can come in now, and we'll take your temperature and we'll do this, and...
I think they do that at every medical facility, dental and everything right now.
Well, I wonder why they
And
do
those
that.
those private practices have the right to set those mandates.
And I wonder why they do that.
As they can also say they want their employees vaccinated or they don't give them jobs anymore.
Well,
And individual businesses can do that.
I'm just telling you, you cast aspersions on this board when you fail to at least respond to the Board of Health's, urging that we have a safe environment for our employees and a safe environment for the people who wish to have a communication with us.
We'll never agree on the effectiveness of the mask and the virus.
Well, it doesn't matter what you think, Greg, it doesn't matter what I think, okay?
Well, I
If
know
you follow the
we
science,
had.
if you follow the science, I'm probably on, firmer ground than you. But it is what it is, and I guess short of Dylan, you and I making a motion to have the select board promulgate a policy that would indicate that in this building, we require masks to be, for people coming in to work with our employees, and for times when we are in a public meeting.
And I would question if you do that and someone comes in this building without a mask, what action you expect the administrator to take? Well, you're not going to serve someone in the public who won't wear a mask? Someone who has asthma or the breathing issues that won't?
Greg, we do not have anybody who comes in here during the course of the day who doesn't put on a mask or have a mask.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you.
Maybe me.
Maybe you.
But what I'm saying is, if you don't have an issue anyways, why do you need to make a mandate?
Well, you're an
Say, I am an issue. So what's the recourse? What you do when someone is not going to wear a mask? Now, an airline can say, we don't want you on our plane,
Well,
so can the ship or
I
something.
want you to
but-
zoom in then. If you don't want to wear a mask, zoom in.
Yeah, I could do that.
You know, I just think that the mask requirements that have been put together by the Board of Health are reasonable, in line with the medical professionals in this nation and in the world, and you're probably in the minority, and there are ways in which you can access this meeting, but what we're going to have to say to the public is, if you want to access this meeting, you all stay home, because he won't wear a mask. So you can sit here by yourself and we can all zoom in? That doesn't seem realistic to me.
No, it doesn't.
No. But hey, we can argue about this probably
Well,
ad infinitum and ad
As I
nauseam.
said last week, if we determine that I'm wrong about this, and
You are wrong about it.
and I can be required to wear a mask at these public meetings, then I would gladly zoom in. But I don't think that's the case at all.
So are you saying, though, that the Board of Health, the selectmen can make shall we say, a mandate at our meetings that everybody will be masked?
I don't believe you two can vote whatever you want to vote in. I don't believe we have any right to put mandate in any of this population of this town. That's not our place. We're not rulers of this
Do you have a
town.
second on that motion?
We-
Maureen?
I probably could, yes.
We are not rulers of the town.
If there was a motion, I would like it repeated so I can hear it.
I will make a motion that, in concert with the requirements put out to the public by the Board of Health, that people accessing this building for meetings and/or to have business in the community would be asked to wear a mask, required to wear a mask until further notice. I'm guessing there will be an end to this. And I would need...
I guess, would you agree with a friendly amendment that the select board adopt a mask policy that identically mirrors the Board of Health's recommendations?
I would definitely take that as a friendly amendment.
In that case, I'll second the motion, Maureen.
Okay, we have a motion to seconds for the select board to create a policy that we mirror the Board of Health's recommendation, specifically in regards to mask wearing.
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Last point would be, the recourse would be asking someone who's not wearing a mask to leave the building, just like we unfortunately had to do with Mr. Lipson. So I think that's the recourse.
Well,
But that's my last comment on it.
all right, and my comments would be this, and, I've had issues with Mr. Lipson before, and it took a great deal of investigating with the police and with the chiefs of police attorneys for the state of Massachusetts to determine what threshold it takes to remove someone from a meeting. So the chairman of any board, which in this case at this time is still me, and you can certainly change that and be one of you two. The chairman of the board is the only one that has the authority to remove someone from a meeting. And those rules to remove someone come far short of those rules of trespass or public disturbance. So it's expected that you normally don't remove somebody just to throw somebody out. You want to make sure you do so with cause. In Mr. Lipson's case, he's disturbed public meetings many, many times. And, this was on the agenda. He made his point, carrying on is ridiculous, and he keeps disrupting the meeting. That's what he's been removed for. I think you'll find we don't have the right to remove someone from a public meeting because we don't like they're wearing or not wearing a mask. And I would be concerned if somebody was removed from a public building at a public hearing, in a public meeting where they have a right to be, on a mandate ordered by this board with no authority given us by the public to do so, would be a mistake. And that's my comment on that.
Okay.
Any further comments on that before it goes to a vote?
Obviously, we will be putting together a policy that we'll work with our attorneys on, and we know that we'll implement the policy after we get it squared up with our attorneys. Obviously we didn't write the policy tonight. It's just going to be in concert with what the...
So would you like to maybe abolish this motion and start again with a policy that states that you want to create a policy, have it approved by attorneys, and reinstate it when that is done? Rather than Because right, as of now, you're making the policy that's, would be seemingly effective now unless we modify it
Well,
yet
I
again.
don't expect to do it like now and say, okay.
No, but I
right,
mean, you know, I mean, like tomorrow.
No,
I mean,
I would expect that, you know, during the 2 weeks that we have between meetings, we have sufficient time to work with our attorney and to figure out exactly what the Board of Health policy is, so that we are in concert with their requirements, or their recommendations, whatever they're calling certain things.
Sandy, can you make a conformed and logical motion from all of that? Or do we need to restate anything?
No, I can rewatch the video tomorrow and pick it up from there.
Okay, so, I mean,
Because I can put it on transcription and it'll all be in there.
all right, so do we want to officially state that we're amending this vote to include the attorney's clarification prior to being instated?
Again, I would accept that as a friendly amendment, if the second would, that we will be having our policy reviewed by our counsel.
Yeah, are you looking for a second for that? friendly
Yeah, just
amendment?
making sure we do this, I don't want to have it not be done in a legal manner.
Right.
All right, so once again, any further discussion? Mr. Andrews, you had something on this?
Yeah, I do. So firstly, coming in here is threatening to me because I have highly compromised immune system. And I think you're doing a great deal of disrespect to me and to the general population by not adhering to the sign on the door. You can have all the political comments and you can have your own opinion that you want, Mr. Chairman. But to do right by your Board of Health and to be a citizen of this town, adhere to the rule, to the reg. Just put a mask on. You may not agree with it. Put it on anyway. Because you're out of order. You're out of order with the rest of the town. So if the rest of the town has to wear a mask in here, it applies to you just as well. Don't put me at risk. I know other people in this room are not here because they're at risk because of you. That shouldn't have to be. That's what I would say. And the other thing is the way that compromise this by then saying go on to Zoom, when the way that you treat people when you're on Zoom is not coherent with democracy. Hanging up on people, not acknowledging.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. I'm going to cut you off there. We're getting off topic.
Whoa.
Because you're not on topic, you made your comment. It's
No,
clear.
this
Thank
isn't
you.
coming
No,
because
we're not
you're
going about
talking
Zoom.
about
Mr.
going
Andrews,
on
we're
Zoom.
done.
You're talking about.
I'm going to call for vote now. All those in favor of this policy?
I
Aye.
In May. Okay. And for the record, that was placed on this agenda by me so that you two could
understand.
have your say.
I
I
understand.
acknowledge and call out that I'm different, and I'm not trying to have people have any impression that I'm setting any policies and moves of the board. I specifically asked for that, fully aware of what we'd have for a talk and how this would make me look to folks along the way, but I wanted this open to the public and understanding where it comes from and that my opinion is mine, does not reflect that of the board. That's why this is on here for the meeting.
Well, thank you, Greg,
Do-
for the
do-
opportunity
do-
to discuss this on the board.
No thanks needed. It's how it should be done. I mean, my opinions are mine, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm speaking for either of you, because I know you both have contrasting opinions, and I expect you to do such tonight. And I want to make sure you had the opportunity to do so if you wanted to. Do we have any other business that's going to qualify as other at this point, or should we move on to the ARPA discussion?
I think we're ready to go now.
Okay, so move to the ARPA discussions. We have Capital Strategic Solutions Grant Management.
Yeah, so a couple of months ago, we had the ladies from Capital Strategic Solution come speak to us over Zoom. They made a presentation about their grant support services. And this is just the follow-up to the board's request for a proposal, a written proposal.
Is that in my packet someplace?
Yes,
Should I
it
dig-
is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, keep talking, I'll start looking.
Yeah, so it just basically just goes over everything that we discussed about how their goal is to manage ARPA expenses, whether that's it's kind of like an à la carte service, what you need, they can provide. So I think the biggest thing for the town is going to be just the financial reporting. Just because I know when we had the CARES Act, that took a lot of administrative time away from our staff to report on CARES. And ARPA is different because you're reporting directly to the federal government, which is always a little bit more challenging than when you're reporting to the state. So I would recommend that we invest some of our ARPA funds in having capital strategic solutions manage our reporting. But like I said, they have a handful of other things that they can do for us, including public outreach, helping us kind of market ARPA, because as we all know, this is about $1.7 million that the town can kind of spend freely, but this is unprecedented because we don't have to go through town meeting, which is something that the town has never had access or the ability to do. So I think it would make sense for us to come up with a good plan and then also include some conversations with the public so they know exactly how we're spending this money and investing it in the community. I think that would be a good way to include the residents on this, short of going to town meeting and asking for their permission.
One thing that I did like about the proposal, it's an hourly fee. In other words, if you use the people who are heavily credentialed in here, you only pay for what you need. If you don't need them to help us and assist us in creating a plan, but would like to have them help us with marketing, they do website management in the ARPA area and so forth, we can use ARPA money to pay them. So it's $180 per hour with no limits on how little or few hours we can use. And I know that they are heavily invested in Southborough and Northborough and I think in Townsend, some towns that I have talked with, and they are highly regarded and seemingly doing a very good job for them. So this gives us a place to go to ask a question, a place to go to get assistance, or not hardly use at all. But without signing on, we just can't call them up and say, oh, by the way, now that you have a full docket, because we were concerned because we're sort of late to the game here, making sure that they still had room for us because they have a limited staffing pattern. So the answer was yes on that, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to make sure we do things right.
And I can't speak, I don't remember if they mentioned this, but a lot of times what happens with these consulting firms is that when other communities ask questions, they will share their knowledge. So, they don't have to answer the same question to 15 clients, but we also don't necessarily have to spend money on asking that question for them. So I know that a lot of consultants will do that as well. So it kind of loops us into a network.
And they did state that they are covering, because they're covering a lot of other towns and areas, especially getting this late in the game, it's very likely if we ask some questions, it's something they've already researched and answered, which would certainly cut the number of hours we'd be paying for down. Obviously it's things we could do for ourselves, but the question is, at what cost of our own time? And we have enough going on in town as is. And certainly filling out federal paperwork, if anybody has for anything before, it's daunting and tedious, and it's very, very particular. So you do something a little bit wrong, they'll reject the whole thing. They won't say, come fix this, they'll kick it back at you and you'll start all over again. So I think it's probably wise to go ahead and employ them. And I don't know how we proceed. Do we just let Jessica do when she feels she needs to? Does she come to us first and say, we might use them for 5 or 10 hours? Do we have a cap on how many hours she can use them without coming back to us?
We could put a $5,000 or $10,000 cap max, and she's going to know when she needs to call and get some assistance. And I mean, you can sort of let us know that these are the issues of concern. Obviously, we're the ones who are going to putting together some sort of a plan with help from the finance committee and other, groups in the town. So we'll sort of know our direction. It's just a matter of when you need to ask, can we do that with that money or not? Are we eligible for FEMA in this case, and should we not be doing this with ARPA because we can get it from FEMA? Those are the questions that we can save the town, actually, the money that we're going to invest in this group of experts will help us not make mistakes that would cost the town money that, it doesn't need to spend.
And what's the minimal billing portion? Obviously, they're not going to bill it by the minute. Do they do a quarter hour, tenth of an hour? 1 hour minimum, so we ask a simple question, we spend $200.
It says
I'm curious as to how that is.
that the town will only be billed for actual hours worked and shall be billed at an hourly rate. It's $160 per hour, not
$160, yeah.
But, so it does, I'm not seeing if it's saying like by quarter hour, half
So
hour.
we're almost $3 a minute, and they say, okay, it was a 2-minute phone call, it's $6, or is it, I can't believe there's not a portion like
My
a
guess is that they're probably.
at 0.1 or something for minimal portion, is, 6 minutes.
I would suspect that they probably bill you maybe monthly or something, that they don't bill you, every time you call.
Right, but even when they track it, there must be, they make a quick phone call, or you ask a question, they go, oh, I know the answer to that, and it took them 2 seconds.
Right.
But there's gotta be a 0.1 or some minimal bill tick that they can take to
We can check
measure.
on that.
Yeah.
It'd just be good to know, because it might change how you ask questions.
Billable hours.
You might settle down and say, okay, here's a list of things I'd like answered. There might be 10 seconds each and take a minute or two, as opposed to each time getting a tenth, and bill full hour for something that takes far less. So, clarify before we use them as to how it's billed, because we can certainly, adjust what comes out of our end to try to do it in a meaningful way.
Right.
Otherwise, you don't begrudge women a profit. They've set up a good business. They got a good idea here, and it's certainly going to, I think, help us in the long run. So I'd entertain a motion at this point.
I move approval of the proposal forwarded to us by the Capital Strategic Solutions to assist the town in the management of the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, and to provide us with the support services that are necessary to provide the town with the best service delivery patterns.
And do we want to add, and allow Jessica to, use the service up to,
And authorize the administrative assistant to utilize the services not to exceed $10,000.
I'll second that motion.
we have motion second to approve the use for Jessica and the assistant, Sandy, of the Capital Strategic Solutions up to, but not exceeding $10,000. Any further discussion on that? Any
I
questions
just
from?
want to add, I just want to add that I'm very excited to see what we can come up with this. I think this is a huge opportunity, once in a lifetime, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can come up with together on this. Very happy to see that this is moving forward. That's my comment.
All right. Anybody in the audience have any questions about what this is or what it's for? Neil?
Not about what it is, what it's for, suggestion on how to handle it.
Sure.
You said that you were gonna set up some kind of a program that you suspected you'd want to spend the money on, then bring it to the town. I would suggest that maybe there would be some people from the town that put some thought to this, and have some people having additional input than just straight the board.
No, we agree.
Yeah.
That's not what was said.
Well, this,
Well, in our conversations in previous meetings.
yeah, what this group really is for
I
is.
tried to get that in when I was allowed to speak.
Yeah,
Okay.
this committee is really, that this group really helps us dot our i's, cross our t's, and make sure we're using funds where we're allowed to use them, and that's what it's for. Sure. Okay, any further discussions, questions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Plans for purchases.
Plans for purchases, okay.
We've had a plan to purchase a used piece of equipment for the snow and ice. And by all checks we did on that, up to making that vote to purchase that through snow and ice, everyone says it's permissible. DOR would rather see us not do it.
That way.
So since it has not been purchased that way, I would like this board to rescind its vote to purchase it through snow and ice and spend ARPA funds on the truck. I don't want to lose a truck. I don't want to put one on the warrant for $300,000 and we can pick up a used one for 45 or 47.
Why don't we spend stabilization funds for it?
Because, once again, I would rather not go into stabilization funds unless we have to. And I understand ARPA funds are good for an extended time, for a couple of years. Stabilization fund is good forever. It's not going anywhere, ever. And if we decide to do that, we could, actually, I'm of the mind at this point, we're going to hold a special town meeting to hopefully draw out a stabilization for the parking lot. We should just use ARPA funds for these couple of items. And, you know,
I absolutely disagree. Now, here's why I disagree.
Okay.
Especially the whole business about the parking lot. That's been just sort of on the budget or on at least our conversations for as long as I've been selectman, which has been a long time, I admit. But we know we have the money. We already got most of the money, and there was an underestimate of what it would cost us to do the drainage plus all of the macadam, tar, whatever, asphalt is necessary. We have a plan for that. Now that the ARPA money, what we don't want to do is every time something comes up that we already voted to, we say, oh, let's use ARPA money. That's the, as I used to call my teenage daughter, the Whitney School of Finance, where she would say, oh, Mom, if you buy this for me, don't worry, I'll pay you back. Well, I'm still waiting for them to pay you back. That's what I don't want to have happen with ARPA, that becomes this cash cow. It should be something that we look at and say, $1.6 million, how are we going to change the community that we live in a way that benefits our population, our community? Buying the snow and ice truck, that's absolutely a great stabilization thing. That's not like this ARPA thing. That's like, oh God. I mean, maybe after time we would say, but the Ruggles Lane parking lot, that's been on the table. We know where we're going to have the money. We're going to have to move some stuff around because of the underestimates. We knew that. But now, just because ARPA's here, we're just saying, okay, let's use ARPA money. Because I can see us getting really saying, okay, let's just use ARPA money. Let's just use ARPA money. And pretty soon, the ARPA funds are gone, and our community is no different than when we started. And that would be a tragedy, in my opinion. So I think we should take it out of stabilization. That's what stabilization is for.
Okay, I think that when we talk about the ARPA funds making a long-standing impact, I think redoing their parking lot is the type of thing that will make an impact.
And we already have that in the budget.
Well, we don't. We put $50,000 has been set aside for it, and we do not have it in the budget. That's why we'd be rating stabilization. Stabilization is something this board's been working on building up to a proper and sustainable and maintainable level for years. The 5 years I've been on the board, we have not taken anything out of stabilization, but added to it to build it up to where it is at a healthy position. And rather than say, yes, we'll take out of it, then add back to it later, I would rather spend a small portion of the ARPA funds to fund these couple of items that we have on this warrant, and not have a meeting, not try to bring the town together, bring everybody out tonight to approve, something we're gonna go forward with. It's a parking lot. It needs to be done. It's not something we can ignore.
Okay.
We have the funds to do
Okay,
it.
this new ARPA thing for the parking lot is brand new. We've had numerous discussions about this parking lot thing and ways in which we were
Right.
going to fund it. We never said, oh, we're gonna do ARPA money, never. And now all of a sudden, it's sort of like, okay, there's this, bucket of money and it's stabilization.
That's-
There's a bucket of money in ARPA, and there used to be very restrictive, protocols to use ARPA money. That has been loosened up. It's not just freewheeling, but it's been loosened up in comparison to what it was originally designed to do. So all of a sudden, the $50,000 we had, and then we had X number of more dollars we were going to get from this and that, blah, blah, blah. We had those conversations on numerous occasions. That was going to happen for the April, hope they're going to do something in the April, timeframe when the school was on vacation. They were going to fix the drainage, and then early in the summer, they were going to take care of the asphalt part. Now, all of a sudden, we're not doing any of that, and we're going to buy it out of ARPA. I just don't get that. So what are we going to do with the $50,000 that we voted at town meeting to do the Ruggles Lane parking lot?
That's already been put aside, and it's in the funds waiting to go to the parking lot.
Okay, so you're
doesn't
saying,
change that.
what you're gonna do is you're gonna say.
We need 82,000 or
So you're gonna say we're gonna
87,000
take
more
the
to finish.
32,000 that we were gonna get from other parts in the budget, because we had those conversations, that we were gonna take it from other areas in the budget.
It's 80,000 more we need.
Okay, 80,000, whatever it was we needed, okay.
Yeah, because the original number we had was, as it turned out, came from the school or someplace as a request for the parking lot. When it was voted and put through, went to town meeting, the DPW said, where'd you get that number from? We didn't give you that number.
Well, according
And
to
it was
DPW,
woefully
yeah.
deficient on
Okay,
doing it. So we've got the real number, it was in the neighborhood of $130,000. And we need to produce 80-some-odd thousand dollars more to have the parking lot done. Now, if we take out a stabilization, that's money that's right now invested by the town, it's earning us money back, it's earning us more money. The ARPA funds aren't. Why would I take away from something that's
Well,
in our stabilization
well,
earning us
listen.
more funds?
Well, yeah, but listen, this is, okay, the bait and switch that makes me crazy, because then I'm saying, okay, how do you explain all of a sudden it was here, oh, hey, the parking lot, well, we're not gonna do it, I know it's in the budget, but we're not gonna do that, we're not gonna take out stabilization, and oh, we're gonna do ice, snow and ice for the truck, we're not gonna do that now, we're taking it from the ARPA monies. And so that says to me, this ARPA money is like a pot of money that people, we're just gonna do this and we're not gonna even have a plan.
I don't see that at all.
I do. First two things that came up, we're running right to ARPA before we've even had an opportunity to sit down with the Budget and Finance Committee or anybody else and have a conversation. And so I look at that and I say, well, stabilization is where it should come out of.
Well, the truck purchase has been approved and is probably waiting to go forward with, and if we don't pay that, we're probably gonna lose the truck.
Well, we can pay it out of stabilization.
We can't, not till we have a town meeting
Well, that's March
it's a
1st.
month away from now. That's the
Well,
whole point,
okay.
Can I point out that we have the chair of the finance committee, Dan, and Claire also in the audience, and
I don't
maybe
think-
they can
they're online?
shed some light on this, debate.
Oh, I didn't realize they were listening to us.
Certainly
Welcome.
welcome to have
Yeah.
input.
We're in trouble now, they've been listening the whole time.
That's good.
But if we recap quickly before we go to them, the things we have left for the special town meeting are what, please, Jessica?
Ruggles Lane parking lot, the PFMLA,
What's that?
PFMLA, the Paid Family Medical Leave Act.
Right.
And then.
The sewer bond for 5 million or 8 million.
Right.
That's probably gonna
Right,
get
so
removed.
that's probably gonna get removed.
Right.
The Family Act, we don't have to do now, we can do it.
later.
We can do it at annual anyway, so it really leaves the parking lot.
Right.
And I really hate to have a special town meeting for just the parking lot. And as far as the truck goes, I'm worried about
Losing
the truck. And I think that the ARPA funds is a quick way to make sure it takes care of it. But what that does mean is instead of having to put money in to cover that in snow and ice at the end of the year, we're gonna have more free cash available. This should have been all done in free cash, which is our intent, and that's not freed up, and that's a problem. If free cash was done at the appropriate time, this would all be done in free cash.
Nobody has whined and complained
I know.
more than the certification of free cash.
But we're unfortunately here at this position where we plan to pay for this out of free cash, and we
Okay,
can't.
so-
And we could have easily, paid for this truck out of free cash, we can't.
Okay.
So we have money we can readily spend to make these two things done and not go through the whole process of a special town meeting,
Okay,
which often in this time of year, we struggle.
Yep, to get a
You can,
quorum, I
Kathy,
get that.
to get a quorum.
But-
And even if we go in and get a quorum, it may not pass.
Well,
It's-
the thing that's troubling to me is the change in direction, and now I'm saying, oh, we'll just take this out of ARPA money. We'll just take this out of ARPA money. Maureen keeps whining about certification of free cash, but I just keep whining because it doesn't seem to happen. And we would have had to go to a town meeting to use free cash anyway. But my concern just is, this bodes, okay, it doesn't bode well for me. I hate when there's a plan, when it has to do with what the auditors say that we don't do, which is get certified free cash like in November. It's now almost what, February, mid-February, no certification of free cash. So I look at this and I say, this gives us, we're like bad children. This gives us, oh, no problem, I know we didn't do our stuff, but we can buy it out of ARPA, we can buy it out of ARPA. And I know we need the truck, and before I would give it up, and because if it's such a big deal to call this town meeting and think that we can't get 50 people to move it out of stabilization, but that's $80,000 right out of ARPA that is, not anything that we planned. We had that planned as part of the budget. And then we take the truck, which absolutely should be, I agree with you, free cash if we could, or take it out of stabilization. So every time we say we're going to have a plan attack, we're going to take this money and we're going to work with other people and we're going to do something that the community looks at and says, okay, we get this. We better understand that the next time our hand goes to that pot, without having done due diligence, we should get it slapped because it's wrong-minded and it just demonstrates lack of appropriate protocol for us. You would be the first one, okay, at Quabbin Regional to slap my hand if I pulled this bullshit. Excuse me.
Well,
Excuse me. You would. Let's face it. You would.
When it comes to
Okay.
when it comes to stabilization, I've been very adamant that we need to build it up, and I want to build it up to 10% of our budget. We're almost there. And I hate to see it go negative.
Well,
Now,
it's hardly
granted,
going to go negative
it-
to $4,500.
We can go negative a little bit, and then we can,
45,000.
well, no, 84,000,
Yeah, well,
and
I'm
then
talking about
45 for
that.
the truck, 130,000. And then we can put it back at town meeting, and people say, well, why don't we have the free cash? Because we need to put it back there, we promised it to. And I'd rather not, take from this pot than replenish a pot later. We can take it from ARPA, it is a portion of it, it's not a lot. And no, I don't want to make a habit out of spending ARPA. I don't want to just frivolously toll away and pick it away at ARPA till it's gone. But the truck, I really want to make sure this opportunity doesn't pass us by and we pick it up. I don't want to see this on another warrant for $300,000 instead. And the parking lot's got to be done, and this is a capital improvement for the town. And I don't think that's a bad use for ARPA
I know,
funds.
but we had
Because
already
it can't go into
decided
chapter
we were gonna
90.
Fund that some other way. And then when this money came, that's supposed to be used as a part of this American Rescue Plan Act, which demonstrates an opportunity for the town that we'll never have again. We can afford to do that parking lot. We can afford to spend $45,000 out of our budgeted funds to take care of, okay?
Right, but they're not available for the truck, and they're not available right now for the parking lot. Neither is available. This money is available. It can be done now without.
Stabilization is available.
It's available with the town meeting that makes quorum and has a
So you're just
two-thirds
saying
vote.
all of a
2/3 or
sudden-
3/4 for
Okay.
2/3.
All of a sudden now, it's you're worried about the town meeting. I'm going to probably say to you, okay.
Not worried about it, but there's
I'm-
woefully little to bring the public out
I'm not
for.
saying that either purchase or either project isn't really important. They are. You and I agree on that. I just dislike, okay, the 3 Ps, and we're figuring out where the money's coming from. I would like to make certain that this does not happen again, that this is an arbitrary, okay, grab of the ARPA funds before we've, entertained opportunities
I
for the
agree
public.
wholeheartedly.
Okay, well,
And I also feel like the shell game, it's more of a shell game to go to meeting, take from stabilization, go to the next meeting, take some free cash, refill stabilization, as opposed to
no, not
just to
that
spend.
makes perfect sense
As-
to the town.
I know, but I mean, it's more direct to just spend from this, but I agree, I don't want to spend it down. I don't want us to just spend through the
Greg,
funds.
I've worked with you a long time as, let's put it this way, as your relationship with the schools and how the schools spend money. And I will tell you, you
I'm a
would have.
pain in the butt.
Okay, you
I
would
know.
have been all over my back if I did this.
Quite possibly,
Yeah,
but
and you would say, well, Maureen, take it to the town meeting. Vote it the way you're supposed to
Right.
vote it. That's what you would say to me, and I would be lost for words to dispute that. I would say, you're right, Greg, I should do it the right way. So I'm just saying, I'm opposed to this grab of the ARPA. I do know how we need to have those 2 things done and taken care of. I still go down to fighting, saying it should be out of stabilization.
and they have come up to, we
But
have
if-
had, for the truck, for example, I held that up for 3 or 4 meetings to give the public time to come in and have comment on that, because I really didn't like to purchase it that way. I wanted public input, and we really had none on it. There wasn't a lot of concern. And we've got to the point that we'll get to you in 1 second, Kathy, and we did get to the point that we've got to buy that truck, or we're going to renege on our agree to purchase. And
Right,
then
I think
as far as the parking lot, we've discussed it with the town, we approved some funds for the town, not enough, clearly not enough.
But
And I don't think the town would say no, because obviously, everything up there needs repair. It's in horrible shape. And it's ours, we have to fix it, it's a liability if we don't fix it. And whether we do it out of the ARPA funds or we wait till town meeting, but if we wait till town meeting, all the prices are gonna go up, unless we do a special town. And I hate to do a special town for one thing. Go ahead, Maureen.
Why,
Kathy's
why
on.
can't you use chapter 90 funds for the truck?
It's, for those trucks, we can't. When you get to something like the loader, you can, but the trucks are for, mainly plowing and sanding to maintain the roads, not to repair the roads. So the chapter 90 is for road repair, drainage development, that sort of thing. It's not, I don't even know if it's drainage, I shouldn't say that. But the maintenance of the roads is on us, not chapter 90. And 90% of the use of that truck is for plowing and sanding. Probably 10% towards rebuilding and drainage and things like that, so it doesn't qualify. First thing I asked too, why do we chapter 90 it?
Well, there's no question that in other communities, they do this. They would use chapter 90 money.
Absolutely.
And after snooping around in several different towns, they said, yeah, we do that all the time. Yeah, we do that all the time, but then.
But I think it's a
guess the
lower
Department of
number
Revenue
normally.
said,
It's like $10,000, $15,000 purchases, just because this gets up to 45. That's my guess, is why DOR isn't comfortable with it, because it's approved for other towns all the time for $10,000, $15,000 price range. It's not a big deal. But I think it's just the level that's
I
put
think
them
I've
off,
said
but-
all I want to say on this, because I guess everybody says, yeah, it's just, it's not the right way to do it. Do we need those two things? Yes. Am I going to not vote for them because of how they're funded? If you two are going to vote for it, it's going to fly, I'll probably not vote for it. But if you need my vote, I will vote for it. But I just find the way in which we've approached this as a bad omen.
Dylan?
Well, I want to just say that I understand, Dr. Marshall, where you're coming from. That we want to make sure we do everything in the correct order, and I definitely want to hear from some of our finance committee folks who are patiently waiting on this call as well. But I want to see everything done the correct way. But with the time crunch of needing to get this truck, the sort of needless, potentially needless investment in time and energy in having a special town meeting for just a couple things. This ARPA money is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and if we can get some of these outcomes taken care of expediently through ARPA, and skip having a special town meeting, I don't think that anyone is wanting to make a habit out of this. I wouldn't be opposed to moving with all appropriate speed on this matter if the finance committee thinks that it's appropriate. So I understand both of your points of view, but I tend to agree with the chairman on this. I don't like it as much as any more than you do, Dr. Marshall, but I feel like we should strike while the iron's hot, and yeah.
And
Those are my thoughts.
there was a fourth article we had, which was $11,000 to fund we have a overnight officer position empty.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But that's been taken care of through other measures, so we don't have to fund that now. That'll just be something we're trying to add to the budget at the annual town meeting to fund that position, so we're staffed with 2 officers on 24 hours a day. I don't like the overnight being someone by themselves. I mean, I wouldn't want to do it, and I don't think anybody does, so that's a safety issue, but it's no longer an issue for the warrant, so we'd have to remove that anyways, and we'll open the warrant to remove that article. At this point, I think we'll probably open the warrant to remove the bond request, and then the last choice is, do we just fund these, we're gonna have to if we're gonna do ARPA funds for the truck, either it's gotta go on the warrant, or we gotta take the other one off and do something with it, so.
It appears to me, Mr. Chairman, you have the votes.
But I'm gonna see, do we have any opinion from the crowd?
I know we have the majority of the finance committee members here. I just want to caution everybody that this isn't a posted finance committee meeting, so maybe if just.
So then we can't.
I I mean, as the chair, Dan, you know, I think.
I'll provide an opinion.
It's not-
We actually were on here, hopefully get some insight on the DPW with the loan. So that's.
So will we.
So were we.
Now, I can tell you my opinion on ARPA is, what concerns me is the lack of oversight and the need for public input. And I've talked to Jessica about this a few different times. That's ultimately my concern. And in terms of using ARPA to buy a truck, if time is of the essence, and it's a relatively small amount of money at $45,000, my opinion would be that could be the best course of action. Obviously, the largest issue we have here is free cash has not been certified. And because that's holding the whole process up.
Agreed.
Which was already mentioned earlier. So it would be a completely different conversation if free cash was available. And if you need the truck before a meeting, I don't really like going into ARPA at this point until there's more information. Because I believe the town's already spent some money for fiber optic, correct?
Yes.
Out of ARPA?
No, that was budgeted.
And
No, there was the sum out of ARPA. We had 100,000 pre-budgeted. I think we went into one for 20,000 or so. A small amount, but we did go into ARPA for a portion of that. But the lion's share was done at town meeting.
correct, yeah, the 100,000 from the town
Yep.
meeting. So that's pretty much my concern with ARPA, is it, what's already been mentioned here today, it just like it gets nickeled and dimed until there's nothing left.
And I agree, we don't want to do that with it. I think the truck is of the essence, and the only reason I suggest the parking lot, because that's down to literally our sole item on a warrant. And, you know, if we wait to the annual town meeting to approve that, we're going to miss our window to have it done on our previous year's rates. Those rates will be redone and revoted come June 30th to July 1st, and I would believe they will go up considerably. So I think this, 130,000 or 20-some-odd thousand of paving could become 170,000. That's what I'm worried about, and that's why I want to make sure we get it done while we still have our rates locked in from last year, for this fiscal year. And that's the only reason, once again, I want it done now. And if everyone really thinks it's wiser to have a special town meeting and hope we get enough people to pave the parking lot, then we can go forward. But it's also a possibility we waste our time and get nothing accomplished. And then we're either back to spending ARPA or waiting till next year and most likely spending more money. It's just food for thought before we vote on this in any way.
I offer one more opinion on
Sure.
the parking lot.
Please.
Yeah, and this came up at our conversation when we discussed the articles. And I asked if the highway department's ready to go with all the materials for drainage. I know I experience in my line of work huge issues with supply chain shortages.
Yeah.
And I would not like to see this money be used or a town meeting just to have it all go on hold because they don't have the piping or the manhole covers or whatever pieces are needed to run the drainage prior to the asphalt.
Well, the good thing about this, Dan, is that since it would be ARPA funds, there's no pre-approval, there's no setting aside of funds. If something happened and they didn't have the materials ready, we just don't do the project, we don't spend the money.
Right.
So it's not like we're earmarking it and it's gone and it has to be set aside. This isn't, at the town meeting, we set the money aside, it's earmarked, it's got to go to that or come back to the town at another meeting. That's not the case with this. So at least that shouldn't be a concern.
Understood.
Okay.
I think on that, it's a tough call. Because I understand not wanting to have a town meeting just for the parking lot. Altogether, you're looking at $45,000 for a truck, and then another $80,000.
84, yep.
So to finish the parking lot.
Right.
So approximately like another $130,000 out of that.
That's it. And we struggle to get quorum at town meetings, let alone special town meetings. And with there's so little on this warrant, I think that most people would say, why bother?
Well,
And unfortunately, that happens, it really happens, and we struggle to fill a room. Even if we have some contested issues, we struggle to fill a room.
well, I know, Greg, that I have been accused of loading town meetings before, not that that's true. But I will guarantee you that I could get you a quorum plus without parking lot. Anybody want to bet against that? I don't think so. I mean, I understand.
The quorum is variable anyway. The quorum is variable anyhow. For the special town meeting, can't we go as low as 10 people?
Oh,
Right,
Yeah,
and,
right.
and once again, when it comes to special town meetings, let's say I could go out and phone call and get 50 people to come into the meeting. I wouldn't want the town to say, yeah, so chairman brought in 50 people to come vote for this on behalf of the whole town. And I don't like that either. I don't like that special town's such a low quorum speaking on behalf of everybody. And if we did say, okay, we'll call people, it really makes it look like that we're just pushing our opinion and getting people in.
I
Yes.
know, what an
How
awful,
much does it cost that time meeting?
Not much, I don't think, because it's
$100
pretty,
or something?
we got people down there to check people in, so I would think maybe,
$1,000.
yeah, $1,000 or so, not a ton. But still, it's not just that, it's everyone's time to do it, then anyone that does come down, if we do get 50 people, 3 hours of their time, 150 hours of people's time in town, and
well, can we entertain a motion?
certainly.
I would move that we use, I'm not voting for this, but that we use ARPA funds to purchase the used 10-wheeler?
10-wheel.
10-wheeler
Yeah.
dump, which would be used for snow and ice removal primarily, and to pay the remaining amounts to complete the Ruggles Lane Drainage Parking Lot project that has been partially funded in this fiscal year's budget. I probably should put an amount in there, $45,000 for the truck, and $80,000.
84, I think it was.
$84,000 for the additional money for the Ruggles Lane parking lot.
Before I do or do not make a second, I wanted to ask, I got a little bit of tidbit sent to me, a concern that we need to make sure that the vendor that the truck is being sourced from is purchased, if we purchase it, that the vendor itself meets ARPA requirements. I don't know anything about that. Bond ratings and other types of things weigh into that ARPA requirement. Do we know anything about the vendor, the source of the truck, and if that is a concern that renders this conversation moot?
It's a private sale, I believe, and I think we could check on that.
Yeah, we can check on that.
Certainly, if it can't be spent that way, we wouldn't have to, we would not be able to, but,
So barring any thoughts, barring any information that says the otherwise, that says the other, to the contrary, I will second that motion.
okay, so we have a motion to second to go ahead and purchase that used equipment and pave the parking lot and do the drainage from ARPA funds. Is there any further discussion? And on that, I will chime in here. If the truck purchase is somehow restricted, it doesn't seem it. They've pretty much equated our ARPA funds to free cash. So I would hope that's why we're going this way, that it is not restricted from this type of purchase. And if it is again, we'll be backpedaling once again to fill this in some other way in the future. But I think we're making the best efforts to purchase this the proper way. We only went for it as we did because the opportunity is a short window here. And I don't want to put, as I said, a $300,000 new truck on the warrant when this will serve us for many, many years. Any further discussion before we continue? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No.
Motion passes 2-1.
And please understand, it is not that I don't think both of those things should be done. They should be.
You were clear about it. We understand.
Okay.
So now we have, I will make a motion that we open the warrant.
Second that motion?
Motion is second to open the warrant. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
All right,
Aye.
I make a motion, we remove all 4 articles from the warrant.
second.
Motion is second to remove all 4 articles from the warrant. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would make a motion that having no articles on the warrant, that we discontinue pursuit of a special town meeting for this year.
I'll second that.
Motion is second to discontinue pursuit for the special town meeting. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And that negates the need for any more of those things. Hopefully now, folks, when we come to our annual town meeting, we'll have free cash certified. And that money can be essentially reimburse our ARPA funds. You know, we can put that towards something that we'd like to see our ARPA funds towards and go that way, and hopefully put some more in stabilization and some more into our capital purchase stabilization, which is in the other account we do have that we've started, and continue from there. But meeting minutes, I was just finishing going through them.
We approved that.
You approved them all already? You did say that earlier, I apologize. Correspondence, do we have any correspondence?
Nope.
Anybody have any correspondence they want to share?
I would just like to thank the 250th anniversary committee for their diligent efforts to have the skating rink available. They have had the worst luck with weather, I
Oh,
swear,
it's been awful.
right before the weekend.
That last storm was the worst.
Yeah, but I know they put in so much effort and time in that, and when it was available, there were lots of little kids in there with parents and so forth having a pretty wonderful time. So I really commend them, because when they were asking us to approve it, we were all looking at each other and saying, oh, it's so hard to get an ice rink that really can, you know, in New England, it's first it's 40, then it's 10, and then it's rain, and then it's ice, so I.
If it just stayed cold and snow, you can shovel it.
Yeah.
You know, if it warms up a little,
But they put a lot of
it melts
effort-
over and refreezes, but
They
what
put a
they've
lot
been
of
getting
effort
is.
in that, and I think that they merit our thanks for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I forwarded, no. We had a letter from, oh my goodness, from the state about the Constantina Bridge, was it?
Oh.
You were on that, you and I were on it, the other select board members were not.
Yeah, I
So
think
I-
it was just.
About what? Sorry.
The bridge we just repaired, the states approved us to replace it, so I don't understand, is that they intend to replace that bridge?
Yes.
Where is that located?
Route
This
62, the
is-
last one going out of,
Yeah, Hubbardston
It-
Road.
that we
over-
just had to shut down and
Yeah,
repair.
well, it definitely needs a lot of serious help, so I hope they're gonna do it over.
Yes.
So is there action we are supposed to take on this? I know they sent it to the chairman of the board, but, you know, obviously I can
Right.
take no action.
Yeah, I
Without-
think it's just up to, there's a lot of paperwork for Jason to take care of.
So certainly something we'd like to see if you could contact Shannon, make sure it goes on the DPW's meeting agenda for
Yeah.
us, so that we can discuss it down there. But we did receive a correspondence from the state basically saying that they want to, the bridge that was out, that we had our Chapter 90 funds withheld for a year ago, till we get the repair work done, was repaired. And then they shut 62 down, and it looks like they replaced both bridges over in the Hubbardston side.
Yeah.
And now they'd like to
Very
replace the
nice.
bridge in our town, which may well mean the closing of 62 again. We'll see. That would be
Or else
quite,
it'll be the light, so you have to
Yeah.
wait to go through.
Yeah.
well, I don't know if they can do that in a full bridge replacement, but maybe. But beware, everyone, it's probably going to be coming. If the state's going to replace the bridge in the state route, then they're going to replace the bridge in the state route,
Well,
At the state's timeline too.
which might mean 4 years from now.
Probably.
Kathy?
Are you also going to work on making sure that everybody sees what the sewer project is, what the amount is, what the state and federal funding is?
If we ever hear.
for the bridge?
No,
No.
for the.
If we ever hear, because that's
Well, we're
going to.
gonna hear next Monday night, I hope.
It's going to have to come on the annual town meeting where it should be, for that level of budget money should be the ATM. And I am sure they'll clarify it by then, and hopefully well before then, so everyone can have a
Well,
chance to
yeah.
understand.
If they wanted it to go on to a town meeting, they must have a lot of information about it that it would be nice if they would share with somebody, either budget and finance or the select board.
Right, and I'm sure they'd say, well, we have meetings, people could come and know, but
Well,
when people are asking,
You and I are there.
well, no, they have a sewer commission meeting and a water commission meeting, then they cancel the DPW commission after.
Well, I don't,
Which is
I don't
supposed
know
to
if that's
encompass
true,
all
because
three.
I come early to all of those meetings and there wasn't a meeting happening.
Oh,
Unless they have
none
it
at
done-
all?
Unless they have it done in the sewer plant, I don't know.
They shouldn't, but they should all be right
Okay,
there.
well, we'll find out on next Monday.
So yeah, hopefully we'll find out more about it, and I would assume they've talked about needing upgrades to the system. We know it's coming at some point. The system's old, and
Well, absolutely.
it'd just be nice to know exactly what they plan to do, so everyone has an idea before they do it. Select board reports, Dylan?
No.
Maureen?
No, I'm good.
Mine tonight will be a focus on what happened at Red Tomato Pizza. I talked with our building inspector, and I heard, of course, on the fire pager, there was a fire alarm there, which we had quite a few smoke alarms there over the past. But there was a fire alarm there in the late hours, like 11 o'clock or so Friday night. And when the fire department arrived, it was smoke banked all the way down to the floor. Something was actually burned in there. I don't know if it was choked out by lack of oxygen at that point. And I believe it turned out it was something that was had dropped on the cooking surface of maybe the stovetop, I'm not sure. Caught fire, smoked out the building. And the fire department discovered there was an issue with the smoke system at that point when they went in there. And there was, some sort of shutdown. I don't want to get into this heavily, I'm not 100% clear on them. And I also have, hopefully you all have a copy of the report from the building inspector that I'd like the board to look through on their own, because I don't want to get into this heavily in public. To really get into this, we need to have a hearing on it, which I would like to do. We need to give 2 weeks' notice to the people involved to have a hearing on it,
Wait a minute, what would we be having a hearing about?
so we can talk about what happened here.
I don't know if it's appropriate that we have a hearing.
It is. Public safety comes into call for this, for a few different issues. There are many people living above that, and the smoke detectors weren't functioning properly. There's other issues,
I just don't know, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a discussion about it, I just don't know if there's a formal hearing. If there's a
There
formal
is.
hearing, we have notification requirements?
this is why I'm saying
Okay,
I'd like to have a hearing.
because-
I asked Jessica to put this originally on the agenda, she didn't want to, because we've got to notify them all before we do it, and of course, she can't notify them. I can't authorize to notify them. The only way we can notify them with 2 weeks' notice is if this board says yes. On our meeting, in the first meeting in March would have to be, because 2 weeks away is actually 13 days' notice. I'd like to have a hearing on this at our first meeting in March, and I would like to then have us give both the business owner and the building owner proper written notice as soon as we can, that we intend to have a hearing about what's going on, what occurred, what needs to be done still, if anything, at this point, and really understand what happened. What I've heard about it, I'm just concerned, and I'd like us to discuss
I would
it.
just recommend.
And I'd like to do so with,
I would just, if this board is going to conduct a hearing, that we have our attorney ensure that, one, a hearing is appropriate for this, and secondly, that if there is a hearing, that we follow all requirements of such a hearing and provide the business owner as well as the property owner with proper notice, an opportunity to be heard, and opportunity to have attorneys. Because I don't think we can just arbitrarily say, we're having a hearing. I mean, we have to have the, what would be the reason that we're having this hearing? And I'm sure there's some reason, but I just want to make sure that we do it properly, and so if we could ask our attorney to just give us counsel on this?
I don't know if hearing is the right term, but I think it is. But certainly for us to have a discussion on this, it would only be fair, before having the discussion, to notify both the business owner and the building owner that we're having such a discussion about their property. In spirit of that's why I brought it up tonight. I wanted you all to have the documents from these two entities to look at on your own, not to be discussed here at meeting. But familiarize yourself with exactly what it is. If need be, or I would encourage, have a call with Bill Cantel, the building commissioner, and you can understand more about it. And possibly with either the fire chief or with Jim down at the station, that's
Yeah, I don't-
our general inspector, and find out
Yeah,
sort of what's going on there.
I don't minimize at all the concerns that you've described. I don't minimize at all. Obviously, I don't understand all of the information, just what we've been presented with this evening.
Right, and we can't until we talk about it, but
Right.
we can't talk about it until we schedule either a meeting or discussion or a hearing, whatever
I
we
just
need
wanna make sure
to,
that-
whatever we need to call it. We need to
Right.
schedule it, have Jessica notify the people involved,
Exactly.
and verify with town council the proper procedure for us to do so.
Because a hearing in my world is that you have not only a notification timeframe, and you have to say to them, what is the approximate result if we, what are we doing, just discussing, or is there something we're going to discuss? Is there something, whether it be, I don't know if it's appropriate, a fine or some other action that this board is going to contemplate?
All of the above to be discussed in the first meeting of the month, so
Oh, okay.
that's things that may have to be notified, and Jessica's gonna have to
Okay.
check with council as to what's appropriate to stay, what the appropriate steps are. If there is, maybe we just have to have a public discussion and then move to a hearing, and it has to escalate, then we proceed that way. If it's possible that it could be a hearing that does result in some, we don't know, I don't know what's gonna come of it. But if there's possible fines or penalties or something, then all that would have to be, if it can all be done at once, you'd have to give them notice of any and all possibilities that could come out of this meeting, discussion, or hearing,
Yeah, well,
whatever
my concern is that we
it's
do
gonna be
not
called.
act in a rash, irresponsible manner. Because there's a lot of issues here, some of which are pretty trivial, others of which are much more substantive. And so I just want
Once again, I don't want to get into
Yeah, I
discussion
just-
what's in here at all.
Yeah.
This is really, I hate to interrupt you, I know, but I don't want to get into anything
Okay.
that's in here at all tonight. I just want to have a discussion and meeting on it here with the property and business owners here to be involved in that, so we can all understand what's going on. And whatever needs to be done, make sure everything is done that needs to be done. And we rely on Jessica to check with town council to make sure that we do everything we proceed and is done
Well,
in
I
a
just want
proper
to make sure that
manner.
everybody's rights are, have
Yes.
afforded the appropriate rights, and
Absolutely.
that we take the responsibilities seriously that we have.
This is why my only goal of bringing this up tonight was to say I want to set a date for it. It's not on the agenda, it's not a discussion item. I wanted to make sure you guys had the appropriate materials to review before then, and we will set, so if the board is in agreement, I would like to schedule some sort of meeting about this and let Jessica post it as it should be posted for what type of meeting it is, because I'm not going to guess without legal counsel what type of meeting we're going to have on it, and check with counsel and do the appropriate notification. If it is 2 weeks, let's make sure we get it 2 or 3 weeks to them and get it well ahead of time. If it means it's certified mail, we certified mail it and make sure it's done properly. Is that?
Are you recommending that we have an additional meeting or tack it on to a select board meeting?
Select board meeting, the first meeting of this last year's to last year's.
No, that's it.
It's this year's?
March 22.
Oh, there we go.
It's a fiscal
So it'll be
year.
the 7th of March would be our meeting. So I'd like to address it at the March 7th meeting.
Okay.
So I'd make a motion that we follow that direction, have Jessica check with town council and do the proper mailings to the people involved and make sure that we publicize this in the proper language and manner for the March 7th meeting.
I think it's important for the town council to be provided with the opportunity to say, should we be having such a meeting at all? And if we should, what should that meeting look like?
Right. I need us to approve Jessica tonight to look into all this for the March 7th
Okay.
meeting. And if need be, and it's advised not to have such a meeting, then we strike it from the agenda.
Okay.
It's easy to pull it off the agenda, but we can't put it in after the fact when we
Gotcha.
get so far out,
Okay.
so.
I would,
Yeah, I'll second the motion to at least have it on the agenda to be discussed, and the absolute proper form of that discussion perhaps will be to be determined.
right.
Fair enough. So motion is second to go ahead and put this on the agenda and hopefully have the right notification and procedure, everything determined before that. Otherwise, we'll strike it. Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's all I had. Jessica, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So while we were talking about our legal counsel, as you guys all know, Jim Baird is retired at the end of the fiscal year, so I have started reaching out to other general counsel agencies in the area to see what we can get for rates, and to see if, who's available to contract with us in the future. I don't think in the past 50 years, Barre hasn't had, any other counsel except for Mr. Baird. So this will be kind of a new page for the town as we look to a bigger, my recommendation is going to be going with like a bigger law firm, like a KP Law or American O'Connell. They're very reputable across the state of Massachusetts. So I'm just reaching out to different legal counsels in the area. And then along with that, we'll have an hourly rate instead of a kind of like a monthly stipend that our current counsel gets. So I am just looking at, for budgeting purposes, like how much it could potentially cost, and then also creating and going to be enforcing the policy of, when people can be calling our general counsel, because right now, since Attorney Barrett is on a retainer, people can call him whenever they need to, and that's going to be something that we're going to have to put a stop to in the future. Additionally, I have been working on an evaluation schedule. Evaluations are something that hasn't been done in a couple of years, and even when they were done a couple of years ago, I don't think that they were done thoroughly. Like, not everybody had an evaluation done. So I'm working on creating a schedule that I expect to start in March and then get done no later than April. And it's going to require the proper boards. I will send it to everybody once it's complete, but it'll kind of outline who's responsible for evaluating who. And also we have a evaluation criteria as well to go along with that. I think with my work with the Finance Committee, something that we tried to enforce this year more so than in the past has been getting department heads to talk about and write down their goals and objectives and what they've accomplished in the past year. That's always been a requirement for budget season, but it's not really ever been followed through by departments. This year we had more compliance than we did last year, so I'm hoping that going forward this kind of sets us up as we go into this evaluation season, like that people are thinking about their goals and objectives and their contributions to the town. So keep an eye out for that. And then the other thing that I'm going to recommend to the board is that, so we talked about the current acting chief, the expectation for the tenure there and when we would expect to go do it, an internal hiring process. We talked about April, but I would recommend the board to move that up to March, just because we are in the budgeting season, and if we start that hiring process in April, it'll kind of like squeeze us into a shorter time frame to do contracting with the new police chief. And then also we have to think about the second in command. which, you know, may look different than what our second in command looked like in the past. So we would also have to negotiate with that new person and go through the hiring process for that new person as well. So I would just recommend that we move that hiring process up a month to give us more time.
Can I ask you a question? Would you like to address issues as we go through? If I have conversation, do you want me to wait till you're done?
You can wait till I'm done.
Okay, just checking. Sometimes people like to address it in process you go, otherwise you'd rather get it out, so.
That, I would say that would be it though, just those 3 things.
Okay. As far as the internal posting for the chief position, I'm really not concerned when we do it. I just, there's no pressure. I don't know if we want to wait till after the election and, you know, and just have that short time frame. We expect the salary to be similar position on that where it is now. It's, you know, you could assume there's going to be some motion on it, but maybe not. It's already an increase for his previous salary, but I don't think it's going to be a huge change anyways when we do that. And I'm not worried about the negotiation time, but certainly if you wanted to move forward with it sooner, we could. It's not going to be effective till July 1st either way.
Right.
So it really doesn't matter. If you want to work on posting that internally, then we'd have to probably, at our next meeting, discuss what that posting is going to look like, what qualifications we want to, you know, fit into that, to post internally. So as far as the second in command position, I don't think a deputy position was appropriate for a department this size. I've talked to the chief about that, and he agrees. And I said that, you know, we talked before about giving the officer some place to step up to and maybe create a lieutenant's position, and I think he's in full support of that. That gives another level that officers can go to, and we'd have to figure out before budgeting what that position's going to pay, and it's, you know, a whole salary range and step range for that position. But it's certainly going to be something that steps up above the sergeant and is not putting another chief tag on somebody.
But then that requires, like, we have to create I mean, we're not gonna reinvent the wheel, but we still have to go out, find a lieutenant's job description that fits and tweaks it to various needs.
Right,
It's all those kinds
but
of.
knowing that's where we plan to go, that's been my intent. I think Maureen's not, and we're probably going to go that way. The chief has indicated to me that that's a good way to go. So it's not too hard to start looking into that.
Right.
Without us having any official big
Yeah.
hang-up. So I don't think that'll be a big hang-up for us. But certainly before budgeting, we got to get an idea what that number's going to look like. Certainly going to be more than a sergeant pay. It's probably going to be less than deputy pay, so I'm hoping it'll be a little step down in our spending. And then as we pick up another officer, there's a step up, so we're going to have a bump in that budget, but not too large, I hope, overall. Yeah, that's all I want to say.
I certainly concur that we should move quickly on some of this stuff, especially, everybody talks about evaluations, but those are the things that you never kind of get to do. And I know that the selectmen, we have responsibilities for that, and I know that we probably have you, Jessica, we probably have the treasurer, must be ours,
Yeah.
fire chief.
I would think department heads in general. would be
Okay.
what I want.
No, the DPW guys, they're under the commission, right?
Right.
So as clerk, I suspect I have some responsibility for something. And so I would work with you on whatever you need to, so that I can make sure that you guys get to input on that, and then I could put the evaluation
Sure.
together in the end.
It'd be nice to give our department heads an evaluation and let them know what's going on, and if we, maybe we could have avoided some of this whole, audit kerfluffle, if we
Yes.
dealt with these in evaluations in the past and indicated we were having trouble and asked department heads to work on it, hindsight's always 20/20, or
Well, it
hopefully
is indeed.
always 20/20. But yeah, I agree, we should.
So I'll be happy to help you with that, Jessica, so don't hesitate to call upon me to do some paperwork.
And maybe we start thinking about when it is a good time to do it, and set a policy that evaluations are done by department heads and the employees in this range, and department head evaluations be done in this range, and we get them done on an annual basis. It's, maybe May is a good time for those, I don't know. It's budgeting, but it's close to annual town meeting, it's close to contract renewal, it's a good time to have those discussions before we sit down and talk
Right.
about, salary.
Once we get
and
it a
things.
process, it'll be easier to do.
Right.
It's gonna be a little.
In timing, when we figure out we're gonna do it, no time's convenient, but.
I think the biggest thing is going to make sure, as I mentioned, even when I was talking about budgeting, we're trying to get departments to like outline their goals and objectives and what they've accomplished in the past year. It's not, we just need like something to hang in front of them that said like, if you don't do this, we need to have a consequence for people not doing that kind of, because evaluations are just something that's so important, and it's just been such a mismatch of like, I've looked through just personnel folders just to get a grasp on like who's had evaluations done and who hasn't, and it's just like all over the place. So some people have had 2 or 3, and then some people have had none. So I just think that, out of fairness to all of our staff members in the town, we need to be consistent.
Done an exit interview with our former treasurer, not the interim, but,
Sure.
yeah, there was complaints about certain personnel things she did to me, and I said, well, okay, so show me their last evaluation. Oh, well, I gave them raving reviews in the evaluation. I said, well,
Right.
there you go. All your complaints mean nothing at this point. You can't just say, well, on the way out, somebody slammed you, so we're gonna take action. If there's a valid concern, it has to be discussed and brought forward, Most people, it's very easy to see an issue or a shortcoming in someone else. But when you ask most people, well, I have no shortcomings. What do you mean? It's hard for people to accept those to themselves and own those. And the reality is they need to. And, if we don't have honest evaluations and discussions, it's not meant to be, demeaning or degrading or putting anybody down. It's meant to help build people and show ways they can improve in their performance and in their career. And hopefully they're conducted in that spirit.
Well, we have to make certain that our evaluation process is viewed as fair, responsible, and done in a manner that helps to improve everyone's performance, including the evaluator. Because sometimes people who do evaluations aren't good at that, and that really.
It's hard to be critical of people.
Well, but it's not really even being critical. It's just trying to say to the person, most people, okay, if given a self-evaluation, most people are harder on themselves than
You tell me I've misused the term critical.
No.
Literally, an evaluator is critiquing their performance. So they need to be critical.
Yeah.
Not doesn't mean a bad thing, but it means to logically look at their performance against the standard what we expect, and hopefully make suggestions that are helpful.
If they haven't been evaluated in a long time or maybe ever, this will be a change, and a change that sometimes is threatening. So we have to work on that, and that will be easy. We'll figure it out.
And everyone that's involved, and just remember, the idea is to help people perform better and do better at their jobs and their careers. It's not to try to fire people. It's not to try to, we're going to log you as doing this and that wrong. That's not the intent of the evaluation. And I hope it's received in good spirit when we do it, but with something we owe to the people.
Yeah.
And the evaluators, he said, it's difficult to critique people and to look at them honestly, especially if you find something. Finding a way to approach something someone needs to work on is difficult to do without, someone feeling put down. But that's the evaluation process. We're all adults here, and people are going to learn to go through it.
Okay. I think we're public comment.
All set? Public comment? Yes, sir.
2 minutes ago, you said something that I am going to call you on. Oh, excuse me, been sitting so long.
I know that.
This is a complaint that I am filing with the Attorney General's office against you, Greg.
Okay.
And how long do I have to speak up? Am I almost done my time? Because I only have.
No, we generally give a
60
minute,
seconds.
but if you're making
So what
if
needs to happen here, things need to change. The way this board is acting is abridging my rights. It's delineated in the paperwork. Okay? And I'm not sure how pliable and how open this board is to change, but something needs to happen drastically soon. Okay? I'd like to have some time to do that. I don't have 60 seconds is nowhere near. You've abridged my rights from the Constitution of the state of Massachusetts on this board. I want that addressed.
Are you talking our collective you or?
Your chair.
Okay.
And that needs to be addressed. And the way that you allow the comment at the end of the meeting, that was obviously a change from the beginning of the meeting, which is a way to obstruct democracy, in my judgment. That's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just what happens here, and it needs to stop. There needs to be transparency. There needs to be accountability, and none of those things, are, in my judgment, are happening now, and they need to immediately. It's in there. We had conversation about two things that you said you would take care of, and I haven't been able to get on the agenda because I don't comply with whatever the criteria are presently to get on the agenda. What headway has been made in those two?
Well, obviously, we discussed again today abandoned properties. And we had a change, unfortunately, in our assessor's office because we have been looking into trying to identify all of the abandoned properties. The fire chief has a role to play in that. I didn't realize that when we started, but he has a role to play as well. And so we are generating that list. And I wish I could just drive around and redo it, but I can't. So it has something to do with the assessors, with the lack of tax, response, as well as abandonment of the property. And that has to be, I just can't say, well, I know nobody's been there for X number of years. So we have been working on that, trying to come up, and I said to Jessica just a couple of days ago, I said, Jessica, we just got to get, how many properties do we think? Is there 20? Is there 25?
Yeah, but it's just a one right now. What about that one? The paperwork was filed December of 2017.
No, that's the one across the street.
Let me interrupt, please, for 1 second, just only a second. This specific topic, Neil, when we say we'd like to get you on the agenda for it, this is something the town would probably like to hear during the meeting. So if you contact Jessica and say, under old business, I would like a...
I did say that.
Under old business, I would like...
say that.
Excuse me, let me finish my sentence, please. Under old business, I'd like to have a follow-up on what I talked with Dr. Marshall about, this property, this address, then give her something that she can publish, so an email or text or a short note, so that she can publish it on the agenda for people to look at.
English. We're having a conversation now. I'm not writing anything down.
But this is a requirement.
You're taking
This
my time,
is,
sir.
no, your time
So-
is, your minute's way gone. I'm not allowing you extra, so
Oh,
you're
that's
gonna,
really nice of you,
it is.
Okay.
You're gonna allow me to
So the
finish my,
property-
Mr.
so the
Anders, you're gonna
property-
let me finish my statement
Probably
before you
not.
keep going. You're going
Excuse
to,
me.
or you won't be speaking anymore.
Just let him speak, and he'll let you have your piece. Okay?
To get these things on the agenda, we simply ask that you give her something in writing that would say, under old business, I'd like to have a follow-up on this topic, please. And we would be glad to put that on the agenda. We can publish it to the town, they know what to expect, and that's what's required of us under open meeting laws, to publish what we're going to discuss. And I can allow this discussion a little further under the guise of old business here. But there should have been an agenda item to have an in-depth discussion about it, because we're doing the rest of this town a disservice to have not properly posted it. To that end, Dr. Marshall has counted, and I'll give you another minute to respond to her.
You haven't recounted anything yet. So I did approach the board verbally. That is a means of communication, right? I asked for this. I asked for this about this, and I was denied. Okay, enough from that. So what about the property across the street? Not about the cumulative of how many other properties around town. Okay, the paperwork was filed in December of 2017. And nothing since. And now I'm here again asking the same question, what happened?
By paperwork filed, you mean for tax title seizure?
With the registry of deeds, I suspect.
I'm asking you, what paperwork was
That's what
filed
okay,
in 2017?
So the information that I get out of the town is erratic. Okay, first thing I heard was paperwork was filed. I said, well, then when? We had to do more research to find out when. I was told it was filed December 2017. That's all I know.
So we don't, so they haven't told you what, okay.
Right there on the line.
So the question be what paperwork was filed in
Okay,
2017?
So that's water under the bridge. What has happened since to find out what's going on? Because of that, my property value is lessened. Okay? That's unacceptable. Okay? So what happened? Not about accumulating a list. What happened about that property across the street? And we talked about it, and you knew on the December of 2017, paperwork was filed, and now nothing, and it's 5 years later?
Well, I don't know,
5 years.
I can't tell you what happened on that particular property.
That's what you said the last
Oh,
time.
I know, but I can look into it and try to ferret out what, because with people.
But by when, Maureen?
What people tell me is, you don't understand, Maureen, when you do this tax title, okay, and you file this paperwork, it takes years. And I say, really, years? So I will tell you this.
5 years?
I don't know, I'll
I
tell you.
mean, I see other
I've
things
never-
happening in other venues, other towns,
Yeah.
and it doesn't take it's 12 years since I talked to David Bandestoni, is that the right pronunciation, about this, and I was told then it was being taken 12 years ago for tax title. 12 years.
Okay, well, this is definitely
Okay, so that's
something we get from
that
the
issue.
assessors, is to what's in tax title, right?
Okay, so then the two issues that you and I talked about was that you were going to see about putting the department heads online, their reports, to post them as they get turned in, so that the people are appraised of what's going on, so there's transparency. What has gone on with
Well,
that?
you wanted me to create, okay, a responsibility for all department heads in their job descriptions, which say, because you wanted them
No,
to.
I didn't say about job descriptions.
Wait a minute, you wanted them to begin to file a written report to Jessica on.
I understood that that was done weekly,
On a monthly basis or
or
whatever.
a monthly basis, whenever it is.
Okay. And
So
I-
take the ones that are already being filed and make them public.
Okay, I don't know if they are filed by all department heads, I mean, remember.
Well, whomever. How many people, you're sitting here, can you answer?
The meetings that I have with department heads monthly are just their verbal, face-to-face meetings, so.
So nothing gets written down.
But
So
that's as my conversation earlier, as we move into evaluations, we're looking to make the departments more accountable by having them write down their goals and objectives and the progress that has been made.
So you're
when
looking,
having a meeting-
Neil, hold on, I want to ask you,
No,
I
I'm
want
not-
to,
I'm not done
no,
yet.
you are.
I'll see this through. You can bet your bottom dollar.
Sure.
This is not gonna be obstructed.
Have a good
This-
night.
No,
Look for
not
the
have a good
appropriate
night.
motion.
Not a good night. Not a good night at all.
Look for the appropriate
There's
motion.
people who suffered and died for democracy. This is intolerable. It's totally intolerable.
Look for the appropriate motion.
Move adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Before we do, there is discussion. The warrant for elections.
Yeah.
Do we need, we don't vote on that, right? This is just a state election, we just need to sign it? Or do we need to
They
vote to sign
voted
it?
on
We
it
voted
before.
You
to
did
accept
vote.
whatever the.
Okay, because I signed it before we pass it, we'll make sure it is done. You signed one.
Yeah.
You're gonna sign them all. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adjourn. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Dylan will have to stop by and sign.
Yeah,
I didn't
Dylan
realize
has
that.
to.
Are you gonna vote on the motion to
I'll be
adjourn?
back tomorrow morning anyway.
Yeah, I
We
think you
voted
have
to
something
adjourn,
else to
two of
do
us.
tomorrow morning, Dylan.
Are you voting to adjourn?
Yeah.
Okay, unanimous, okay. We're adjourned. Excellent. I was just gonna ask him another